Well, Twitter has locked Trump's Twitter account, Facebook has locked Trump's Facebook account, and we are seeing a massive wave of censorship across the internet. This happens after Washington, D.C. was overrun by Trump supporters who stormed the Capitol building and occupied the building before being escorted out and everyone going home. The National Guard, I believe, and the FBI basically drove everybody out. Sadly, a 14-year veteran was murdered by cops in cold blood before this happened. Here we are on San Diego's local news station. KUSI News confirms the identity of a woman shot and killed inside the U.S. Capitol. So this woman was named Ashley Babbitt, a 14-year veteran who served 4 tours with the U.S. Air Force and was a high-level security official throughout her time in the service. Her husband says she was a strong supporter of Trump and a great patriot to all who knew her. The Metropolitan Police Department says investigation into her death continues. Now, it is not a mystery. I have seen the footage. I cannot show you the footage, but essentially you have Trump supporters inside the Capitol building. They are unarmed, as was she. She was unarmed, and they're trying to get through a door. She crawls through the window before you hear one of the cops fire a bullet. She gets hit, she goes into critical condition, and then later on, she dies. Her name was Ashley Babbitt. Perhaps. I believe she was murdered. And I said this in my last video. The stupidest thing the government could do is kill an unarmed, innocent Trump supporter who's peacefully protesting. But they shot her. It's horrible. Her family has my condolences. Rest in peace. This should have not happened. I blame the police. I blame the cops for this because she was shot by a cop, perhaps a security guard. We don't really know. Now, meanwhile, Big Tech has decided that they're going to suspend Donald Trump. Here you can see on NPR. Twitter locks Trump's account, warns of permanent suspension if violations continue. So you can see that they removed 2 Trump tweets, and it is utter nonsense. Trump put out tweets saying, "Please, I don't want violence. I want peace. It's time for everybody to go home. Don't harm the law enforcement," etc., etc. He said nothing bad at all. And yet they took down his tweets. They said, "This is a violation of our policies to tell everyone to be peaceful and to go home." What you're really witnessing, my friends, is an end to the American experiment. It is the end of America. This country, I don't see America continuing. You already have a Republican, Loeffler, saying that he's not going to object the Electoral College count and will vote to confirm Joe Biden as president. Fire, fuel to the flame. That's exactly what's happening on social media, on the media. CNN, ABC, NBC, they're all condemning Trump supporters. They're all condemning Trump. They're blaming Trump for all of this. It was not Trump's fault. It was Pence's fault. Why don't we blame Mike Pence for refusing to contest the election when he knew that 75 million Americans had plenty of questions that needed answering? Evidence that had gone unseen, unheard. This is just the beginning. They're gonna ban Trump. You know, Trump's cabinet, or the cabinet, we don't really know what that means, is already talking about invoking the 25th Amendment to remove Trump as president, install Mike Pence, and basically betray all Trump supporters, everyone who voted for Trump. Once again, I believe we're witnessing a hostile takeover of the government, and I'm not talking about Trump supporters. They left and went home. One of them, Ashley Babbitt, died. They were the only victims in all of this. Nobody else was hurt. I'm talking about the establishment. They're taking over the government, and they're probably going to install Biden. Now, you have cowards like Tim Pool and other commentators saying Biden is going to win because of the MAGA movement. This is nonsense. If Biden wins, and I'm going to say it, they're probably going to install him as president. It's not MAGA's fault. It's not Trump supporters' fault. It's not. It's the corrupt establishment. They're the ones who ignored the evidence. The Supreme Court is to blame for refusing to review the lawsuits, refusing to review the evidence. Look, it's one thing if the courts would have said, "We're looking at your evidence, and we went through it, we gave it a fair shake, and we've concluded that it is, it's not legitimate. Sorry, but Biden wins." Trump supporters would have been fine with that. They would have been happy. But that's not what they did. What they did was, we refused to even look at the evidence. So what you end up having is 75 million people who feel unheard, who feel suppressed, and who feel censored. So what does social media do? They censor the president, and they're censoring Trump supporters on a massive scale. Here it says, President Trump's preferred means of public communication, Twitter, on Wednesday put him on notice. If he does not stop breaking the platform's rules, which he did not, he will be permanently banned. Quote, future violations of the Twitter rules, including our civic integrity or violent threats policies, will result in a permanent suspension of the real Donald Trump account, Twitter officials said in the statement. He did not break the rules at all. All he said was, the American people have had their votes stolen, but he wants people to be peaceful, and he wanted everybody to go home. Why did they remove that? Calling for peace violates TOS now? Or are you full of shit? What we're seeing is a power grab, my friends, a power grab. The Democrats are going to install their dictatorship, and America is over. It really is. I mean, we're not going to have a country. We're going to have an authoritarian dictatorship as this country falls further into communism and chaos. I do not think that this will be the end of it. You can't just shut up 75 million people. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And maybe it'll be in the next election, but Biden will not win a re-election. He's not going to win re-election. I don't believe it. I mean, he could. If the Democrats have so much control over the media, over the establishment, over the courts, over the election process, then I guess they can basically win forever. That's where we're at now. It's a one-party country. You've got the cowards, Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, reconvening Congress. They're holding it right now. They're discussing, and they're going to certify the election results. The media's lying about what happened. Hashtag Civil War is trending on Twitter. Hashtag delete his account is trending on Twitter, referring to Trump. Leftists are celebrating all of this. Yay! Screw those Republicans. Screw those Trump supporters. They're not humans. We can't wait to win and put in Biden because Biden is going to ban all Trump supporters. He's going to silence all Trump supporters. This is what they're saying on Twitter. Yeah. And then you wonder why pro-Trump crowds are out there protesting right now. When Democrats CNN literally says that Trump supporters are not people. They're not citizens. They're just deplorables. Here on Twitter, pro-Trump crowds march on state houses across the country. So around the country, Trump supporters are protesting. They're trying to make their voices heard. Now, this is what really scares me, folks. This is a tweet by Antoine Steffens. First Lady Chief of Staff has resigned. All GOP senators are standing down on the election. VP Pence has cut off communication with President Trump and started talking to the cabinet about the 25th Amendment, according to sources from NBC News and Chuck Todd. If this is true, that means that the GOP is not going to contest the election, and this country is finished. Other things are trending on Twitter. Hashtag white privilege. Hashtag, the bad people from World War II. I think it's the end of America. It really is. This country is not going to survive the Democrats. Just like none of the cities the Democrats run have survived. They're crumbling. Taxes are sky high. Joe Biden will destroy the economy. He will destroy everything. And everyone who voted for these Democrats, you're all idiots. You have no idea what's coming. So, the U.S. Capitol has not been breached since it was attacked by the British in 1814. 200 years. Wow. That is certainly a historical event, but you know what they say? History is written by the victors. I'd say the bad guys won.
Here to complete the work we were sent to do, we are proving that our democracy cannot be disrupted by criminal behavior. We will not falter, we will not bend, and we will not shrink from our duty.
Corrupt politicians, all of them. This is why I no longer believe in the government. I think that it's a joke. This country is fallen. And I just want to make one final point. The media, the nerve of the media, CNN, all of these news outlets saying that, this was a riot. They were looting. Oh, now it's looting. Now it's a riot. After an entire year of leftist Antifa and BLM mobs rioting and looting and burning down cities, being violent, hurting people. That was mostly peaceful. But when Trump supporters occupy a building, all of a sudden it's a riot. All of a sudden it's criminal action. We're living in the dystopia. We live in a dystopia. Welcome to the nightmare, folks. Welcome to Biden's America. It's only going to get worse. I wish I had better news for you. I wish I did. Mike Pence, in my opinion, is a traitor to the American people. This is his fault, and I blame him for everything that has happened.